What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of exciting news to go over here this week. Before I get into the news, I first want to mention I'll be doing my usual weekly live stream. It's Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time, so join if you can. It's always a great time hanging out and talking cars with all of you. But getting into the news here this week, the first biggest news story here most likely is that Chevy has debuted the 2025 Tahoe and Suburban. And so these are just refreshes here, but they do get some really nice improvements. The front end gets evolved looks while continuing with the bold theme that they established with the pre-refresh version, and I think it looks a little bit better than the pre-refresh did for sure. And then out back they get some new taillights, and Chevy's offering 24-inch wheels for the first time as well. The biggest changes though are on the inside here with a completely restyled dashboard that's lower, along with an 11-inch digital gauge cluster and a big 17.7-inch touchscreen from other new Chevys, with both screens being standard equipment. And thankfully Chevy has confirmed that they'll still have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and also welcome our physical controls for climate beneath the screen there. The center console has now also been opened up for more space thanks to relocating the gear shifter back onto the steering column, just like on the old Chevy trucks, and I think that's a really cool switch. They also get the new Chevy steering wheel here, which also shows that Super Cruise will continue to be available on these as well. And there's new trim, including real wood in the High Country version. It also features an interior motion detection system that can pick up micro movements and other connected cameras that not only can record inside and outside of the vehicle, but also can be accessed remotely thanks to the vehicle's onboard Wi-Fi. Mechanically, the biggest change is that they refined the independent rear suspension to feel much nimbler on the RST, High Country, and Z71s, they say. And the 5.3-liter and 6.2-liter V8s carry over unchanged, and the diesel will continue to be available and gets the same boost in performance that it got in the Silverado, meaning 28 more horsepower and 35 more pound-feet of torque. So now it's totaling 305 horsepower and 495 pound-feet of torque. It'll begin arriving at dealers in late 2024, so about a year away still, and they added that the diesel and Super Cruise equipped models will come a little later than even that, so those ones I guess will be sometime maybe into 2025 there. But great improvements, I think, and honestly it's also just really refreshing to see the V8 stick around, considering the Wagoneer just dropped its V8s, and you know, even like there's talk that the new Nissan Armada is going to go to twin turbo V6. And so the Chevy's seeming like it's going to be basically the last one standing, I think, with a V8 at this point. And it's great to give that differentiation. And, you know, for those who really want the V8, I mean, I really like the current generation Tahoe and Suburban. They're great. I reviewed one several years ago. And, yeah, I just think it's great they're continuing on with them and continuing with the V8. So cool to see that. Tesla has this week held their delivery event for the Cybertruck reveal here, where 10 trucks were delivered after 4 years of waiting since the first reveal. And so the presentation here also provided a little bit of more new info here, and along with some specs we got on the website here, along with the reveal. And most of these specs are coming out worse than the initial estimates and claims that they put out, you know, again, many years ago here. And the first one is, you know, the starting price. The starting price was initially promised at $40,000. Again, we're talking like 4 years ago. That got thrown out the window, and now the pricing starts at $60,990. So 61 grand now to start. And a lot of people are really upset about that, but I'm not sure why, because look at inflation in the past 4 years. Like, that alone probably accounts for a good chunk of that increase. Yes, it has increased a little bit beyond inflation, but, you know, that is a huge chunk of it. And so I'm not shocked, honestly, at the price going up. I always expected it to go up. And even the 40 grand price seemed hard to believe even back in, you know, 2019 or 2020 there. So, you know, anyway, there's that. And on top of that, though, you know, some of the other stuff is a little more disappointing here as far as like range, for example. So first off, that base one, it's going to be the actual relatively affordable one. That one's not even going to start production until 2025 sometime, they say. So that's still a ways off, which, you know, is unfortunate as well. But it'll also be rear-wheel drive only, and it'll only do 250 miles of range, which is, you know, a lot lower than what Tesla was hoping for and claiming. You know, it just goes to show, some people really, you know, saying how this highlights the fact that Tesla, you know, doesn't really have any battery advantages these days. And aside from the charging network, which also is a key advantage, they're also throwing out the window next year as well. You know, it seems like, you know, the 250 miles of range is really underwhelming, especially from a Tesla these days, where they always overpromise. And so usually, you know, they don't hit those estimates anyway a lot of times. And so if this doesn't even hit 250 miles in the real world, that's going to be pretty disappointing and pretty limiting. But Anyway, it should at least be fairly quick still for that base one, doing a 6.5 seconds 0 to 60 time. It'll also still tow 7,500 pounds, which is very solid towing for sure. Then the next level up is the one that's going to be available here first, and that is the mid-level all-wheel drive version. It starts at $80,000 now, does 340 miles of range, a 4.1 seconds 0 to 60 time thanks to its 600 horsepower, and it also does 11,000 pounds of towing capacity. So very impressive there for that one. And lastly, there's the Cyber Beast, which is the new name for that top tri-motor version. That's coming in 2024 here still, and it's going to cost $100,000 for that one. And that lowers range to 320 miles, but does do a wild 2.6 seconds 0 to 60 time with its 845 horsepower, while still being able to tow 11,000 pounds. And Tesla illustrated this nicely with a drag race against a new 911, while the Cybertruck was also towing a new 911. And it still won the race. So very impressive from a straight line, performance standpoint, which is, no surprise there. Again, everyone already knew that if you're doing a drag race, EVs are the way to go, but, just very interesting to see that. Beyond the specs here, they also revealed that the interior, is going to be getting an 18.5-inch touchscreen there, and they confirmed the bed dimensions are going to be a 4-foot by 6-foot bed, and there's also a range extender battery pack that can be added into the bed and takes up about a third of the bed. That'll help extend range for longer trips and towing. I don't think they said exactly how much extra range, but that'll be available as well. Musk also showed off that it's bulletproof and that the glass is basically rock-proof, he said. Saying basically in front of rock-proof basically throws out the validity of that statement, and so it's like, is it actually rock-proof? If you say basically, there's a caveat there. What's the caveat? But regardless, it's going to be durable, and, it's interesting. I will stay on course here and won't go on a tangent, but it's going to be very interesting to see how these are received in the public here. For the off-roaders, it also has 35-inch tires and an extract mode that extends for 17 inches of ground clearance from the adaptive suspension. There's also four-wheel steering, locking differentials, and on the Cyber Beast version, there's even torque vectoring. And so we'll see just how fast they can build these. That's the other problem. There's a bunch of production constraints and stuff as well. So yes, they've delivered 10 of them, and they are technically now in production. Are we going to see a bunch of them? Is it going to be even the very slow pace they've been doing with Hummer EVs, or is it going to be, something a little bit faster than that, from a production standpoint? We'll have to see, but hey, at least it's finally come to market. It is officially in consumer hands now, and we will have to wait and see how the rest of the Cybertruck story plays out. But anyway, very interesting to see that. And for some other Tesla news here, Tesla told carsales.com.au in Australia that a new Model 3 Performance is coming in the first half of 2024, and that it'll be something special, supposedly, revealing that in their eyes, the first generation of the Model 3 Performance didn't live up to the car's potential, and that this one will be better. They didn't elaborate on that. That timeline also might just be for Australia and other international markets, because here in the States, we still have yet to see the Highland version. There's no way to order it here in the States. As far as the U.S. Tesla website is concerned, there is no such thing as a refreshed Model 3. So I don't know when they're going to finally do that. I mean, they're still having the low pricing for the current Model 3, and they're offering all these incentives and stuff to try and, I guess, clear out the last parts and the last inventory they can. So yeah, I have no clue. The rest of the world might get it in the first half of 2024, but for the rest of us, who knows when this is actually going to show up, since it's bizarre. But now Tesla seems to be giving the short end of the stick to the U.S. People where it's based. But regardless, good to see that a new performance version is coming eventually, and hopefully it'll be as good as they're claiming here. So interesting to hear that. Porsche has revealed what they're calling the third generation Panamera, even though it appears to be a very heavy refresh on the second generation. But this appears to be, a growing trend these days, and Porsche thankfully has been pretty transparent about what's new and what isn't, telling Autoblog here that the basis of the chassis is the same. The wheelbase is the same. It's part of our strategy to make a chassis platform that lasts for 2 generations. However, we had to change a lot of things in the platform because of new requirements, such as crash test requirements. So it's not exactly the same platform. There are a lot of carryover parts, but there are a lot of new parts as well. He also had that we wanted to increase stiffness and we needed to accommodate crash requirements worldwide. So anyway, the 2024 Panamera gets a fresh look here on the front and the back with new lights and bumpers, and there's also taller front fenders. There's also new wheels, including a center lock option for the first time for the Panamera. And sadly, the Sport Turismo wagon version isn't returning due to low sales. And they said that part of the reason why it didn't sell well was the fact that you got very little extra space compared to the regular Panamera, which also has a hatch design. So they just said that there wasn't enough there. My counterpoint would be, well, then they should have made the new version longer and made a longer wagon to make it more practical. But regardless, they just decided to drop it instead. They also did say that the long wheelbase executive version is still going to be returning here. So as far as the interior goes, I already covered the new interior in a previous update, but I guess the new Porsche setup here with an optional passenger screen and lots of piano black plastic there, unfortunately. But to start off, there's just going to be the Panamera, the Panamera 4, and the Turbo E hybrid version of the Panamera. But of course, more will be coming later. And those lowest two get an extra 23 more horsepower and 37 more pound-feet of torque from the 2.9-liter twin-turbo V6 for 348 horsepower and 368 pound-feet of torque now. The Turbo E hybrid version gets a revised version of the 4-liter twin-turbo V8, and that is combined with an electric motor and a 25.9 kilowatt-hour battery. And I didn't see a range listed for the plug-in hybrid component, but otherwise it results in a 670 horsepower, 685 pound-feet of torque output there, which is much less than the turbo version of the Turbo E hybrid version of the Cayenne. But Porsche also thankfully clarified to Autoblog that the reason why this has less power is because it uses a different transmission, surprisingly, and a different electric motor actually than the Cayenne version. And they also added that a Turbo SE hybrid is still coming for the Panamera, but apparently isn't coming for the Cayenne because they said there are two different customers that want two different things, and it made sense to do two separate versions for the Panamera but not for the Cayenne apparently. And so again, stay tuned for a Turbo S version that'll be even more powerful. But there's also a new suspension for the hybrid versions called a Porsche Active Ride that they say uses an electrically operated hydraulic pump, and Porsche says it's so strong that the car doesn't even need the help of the springs, and that the springs are only there to carry the weight of the car and to hold it up when the vehicle is off so it doesn't drop to the wheels. And so it's apparently very eye-opening. According to Autoblog, whenever they did a test drive, they said it's eye-opening. It's wild how good it is on the road and how impressive it feels. So sounds very promising. We'll see if I ever get a chance to drive one someday. But anyway, the base Panamera will be starting at $101,550, including destination, with the first orders arriving at dealers in the spring of 2024. So great to see that. Seems like a great evolution of the Panamera, and just great to see the Panamera still around. There was talk that it was going to be going away with the advent of the Taycan, but turns out that there's still people that want a gas-powered Porsche sedan, and great to see that they're continuing to build these. So while things seem great at Porsche, at Volkswagen brand in particular, it's a very different picture. So this week, Volkswagen brand just announced a savings program to reduce costs by nearly $11 billion by gradually reducing staff, along with making other cuts to provide better efficiency and eliminate some waste within the company. And their CEO even went as far as to say that with many of our pre-existing structures, processes, and high costs, we are no longer competitive as the Volkswagen brand. And their human resources board member said, "We need to finally be brave and honest enough to throw things overboard that are being duplicated within the company or are simply ballast we don't need for good results." And man, what a bombshell. When your CEO of the entire Volkswagen brand says that we are no longer competitive, one, kudos to him for just admitting that and being open about that. That takes real bravery to admit your shortcomings and whenever you're not at the top of your game. And I honestly, I was staggered when I heard this week. I'm like, man, and I'll say that I certainly, out of some of the disappointing cars that I've driven in the past few years, many of them have been Volkswagens. I've documented that very plainly on my channel. If you read the titles for some of my Volkswagen reviews and stuff recently in the past couple of years, they've had some disappointing stuff. And, we will see how things are going forward, but I think they're making, better decisions with bringing back some buttons on the inside. There's still some tuning issues like with the Golf R and the Tals with the transmission trying to hypermile too much and stuff. I mean, there's some stuff there as well. I think they're talking more about operating, inefficiencies and things like that as well for the company. But I think as far as products goes, it's also hard for them to be competitive in that case as well. And so I'm hoping that, there's better times ahead for Volkswagen. I do like, some of their products. I think they still make some great stuff, but, it's just great to see that they're really going to be working hard and hopefully turning the company around and realizing they have a problem here and they need to fix it, which is the first step to, in the right direction there. So, very interesting to hear that, and I wish them all the best. And another company with some somber news here this week was Toyota, who revealed in their internal Toyota Times publication that their solid-state batteries, even once they do finally arrive around 2029 is the current speculation here, they won't be made in large numbers for a while, saying in the mass production phase anticipated for 2030 and beyond, the companies are looking to boost capacity to several thousand tons, several tens of thousands of vehicles in line with Toyota's product plans. And this is a global thing. So we're talking tens of thousands of vehicles globally, which is a drop in the bucket for, Toyota's, I don't know how many millions of vehicles they sell every year globally, but I mean, this is nothing to say tens of thousands. I mean, so basically be prepared for RAV4 Prime like availability in the 2030s if you actually want one of these solid state things. And even that might be it might even be rarer than that. But so yeah, it's going to be tough to get your hands on these for a while. Again, assuming all the constraints that they're anticipating and that, other technology doesn't improve to make it better or something. And, we also know they have other advancements for other battery technology. They've already said that by 2026, they'll have a next generation chemistry for regular battery technology that'll still give them 600 miles of range, which could be enough to satisfy most people anyway, without even needing the solid state assistance. But, this is really considered to be the next generation with a solid state. So we will see, how this plays out in the 2030s. Obviously, it's a very far away off time periods here still. But, very interesting, though. They're kind of pumping the brakes here on the solid state stuff as far as, I guess, according to them, it's always been according to their plan here. This is, the way it was going to go. But, for everyone that was thinking, like, hey, maybe this stuff will come by 2026 or, late 2020s, it's sounding like even in the 2030s here, it's going to be, pretty slim pickings if you want a solid state battery EV. So anyway, just interesting to hear that. For some much better news here, though, this, especially as an Aston Martin V12 lover, I'm very happy to hear this. So it sounds like the V12 isn't going away from Aston Martin after all. There had been some reports. I wasn't totally sold on the idea, but it sounded like a lot of people were thinking that the V12 is going away, and that was due to the Euro 7 emissions regulations and just Aston Martin, wanted to just ditch that motor. But Autocar put out a new report here this week after talking with Aston's Director of Product and Market Strategy about the upcoming DBS replacement. And so earlier this year, another Aston executive revealed that the DBS replacement would be completely different to the DB12 and the new Vantage. And so this new vehicle appears to be ditching the DBS name as a result of this new positioning, supposedly. And Autocar says a revival of the Vanquish name is supposedly in the cards. And they said that because apparently the Vanquish mid-engine supercar, which was supposed to use a twin-turbo V6 and a bunch of other stuff, that whole idea has been thrown out the window. They're not doing that mid-engine supercar anymore, supposedly, which is also a shame because it looked really cool in concept form. But now I guess that Vanquish name is up for grabs again and could kind of be a good way to differentiate, beyond just the DB names, giving it the V name kind of elevates it and puts it in the position of where they want it to be, of being like an actual front engine supercar. It still is going to be front engine, but, will be, I guess, more different than just a faster DB12. So we'll see how that plays out. But along with that, in this report here, according to this Aston executive that was quoted here more recently, he said to Autocar that people still love the 12s and that as much as the electrification revolution continues, the V12 has a different use case and it's still very much a huge emotional connection for our customers. So there was no commitment given as far as, yes, we're doing a V12 for X amount of years longer or anything, any kind of confirmation that a V12 will go into this vehicle. But that's kind of the pieces that, Autocar's put together here as they're talking about this new high-end thing that's going to be different from a DB12. How else do you differentiate it? Aside from a different name and different styling, you put a different engine in it. And instead of just doing, another twin-turbo V8 from AMG, you put the proper V12 in it. and to give it that elevated positioning that the DB12 or that the V12 also, imparts by having that in there. So, and also, with the Euro 7 emissions now being, thrown out with those regulations, that could also open the door for them. I mean, supposedly Autocar is thinking that this car now will be the swan song. It's always like, oh, this is the end, this is the end, this is the end, and it's not the end. They're saying that this Vanquish or whatever will be the end of the V12. That still is possible, but again, since all these companies basically have carte blanche to do whatever they want until 2035 now, at least in Europe, that means that potentially this motor could live on for another, 11 years if they wanted it to. I guess we will see. I'm hoping that consumer interest is strong enough to keep it around all 11 years here, but we will have to wait and see. But yeah, just great to hear that the V12 sounds like, it has a place in Aston Martin still. It's not being thrown out the window, and it's a very good news because that motor sounds so good, and I hope it lives on much, much longer here. But in other wonderful V12 powered news here, Pagani has revealed the Imola Roadster, which is a Wiro-based special edition with aggressive aero while still being street legal. It weighs just 2,776 pounds before fluids while running an 838 horsepower version of the AMG 6-liter twin-turbo V12. And there's no pricing revealed, but they did say they'll be building 8 of them, which is 3 more compared to the coupe version from a couple of years ago, but still they're building 8. That's why I'm not going into more detail about this, because it's a fun art piece for billionaires and completely unrelatable. So I'm just going to move on, but a very cool car. Awesome to see it nonetheless, but they're making 8 of them. So none of us will ever see one of those ever. But anyway, nice it's out there for someone to enjoy, I guess. Anyway, moving on here, Hyundai Group had some pretty big news of their own here this week. They revealed their new patented universal wheel drive system. And so while this little gear arrangement might not seem that exciting, it's a big deal because for the first time ever, an automaker is finally getting rid of the CV joints that every car has used basically as long as cars have existed. And the major perk here is that it allows them to go to smaller individual motors for each wheel for future EVs, and opens up that space where the motors used to reside, either for more cabin space or more cargo space or more battery space. And they have a 6-minute video that does a really good job explaining this. It's actually pretty fascinating, and it's only 6 minutes, so I will link that at the end of this video. You can go check that out if you're curious. It does a better job of explaining this than I can, but anyway, it seems pretty brilliant. And for performance vehicles, the one big advantage, if you don't care about that other stuff, is that for performance vehicles, there has always been drivetrain losses that have gone through the CV, because whenever you're in that CV joint, it's flexing and it's not able to provide full power. It has to cut power back so it doesn't overwhelm that joint. And with this is like an in-wheel thing, and so it can move independent of the rest of the vehicle, and so it's able to really give you 100% power and more precise control for even better handling than existing torque vectoring stuff or whatever that you have currently. And so it seems really promising, and especially from a performance angle, if they can put this in next generation end products, this could open up and unlock those record-breaking Nürburgring times and stuff like that, and just make for really impressive track cars as well. So we'll see what ends up happening with that, but there's no word given, at least that I saw, as far as when this is going to start being used in mass production or anything. I think it still needs to be proven a little bit more and prototyped and stuff like that, but still a huge deal. It's cool that they're sharing this with us, also this early before it's in any kind of product, but could have a potential to really give Hyundai an enormous leg up, and potentially even position them as like a great supplier. If they license this to other companies, that could also just make Hyundai tons of money as well, if everyone else agrees this is an excellent idea and follows along with what Hyundai is doing. So we'll see, but anyway, it seems like a cool idea, and kudos to Hyundai for once again having creativity, thinking outside of the box, and coming up with great solutions and great alternatives to the status quo that everyone's just gone along with for 100 years. But that's not it as far as all the exciting news here from Hyundai this week. So we also found out some interesting info about exciting products on the horizon for Hyundai here, thanks to a Car Buzz interview that they did at the LA Auto Show with Hyundai's Vice President of Product Planning, who revealed that we're also redesigning the Palisade when asked if they were worried about the bold new Santa Fe taking away sales from the Palisade, which I don't think anyone's really too concerned about, considering the Santa Fe is smaller than the Palisade and all that. And she highlighted that, again, Santa Fe will be smaller, so they were not too concerned there. But along with, that, she also provided some extra little teasers here saying about the next-gen Palisade that I think you'll be very excited, and that we want to take the things that the consumers, like to the next level. I'm excited for when it comes, but I have to keep myself from saying too much. But she hinted that that doesn't mean it's going to look like a larger Santa Fe, so don't expect Santa Fe styling on a Palisade, but that basically implied that it's going to be equally as groundbreaking and crazy, from a shock standpoint, while, again, going in its own direction compared to what the Santa Fe is doing. But lastly, she added, I won't tell you the timeline, but we show some good concepts, and that over the next 18 months, vehicles that you've seen and loved will be real. You are going to get more surprises like the Santa Fe. And that last quote got me real excited, because, when she says products that we've seen and loved was the key word there. That was the biggest hint to me, at least. Reading in between the lines there, that tells me it's going to be the Envision 74. Because what is the number one concept that everyone has gone berserk for in the past year or so here? It's the Envision 74. That's the one, if you line them up, that is hands down the one that everyone's going to pick as their absolute favorite that Hyundai's put out in the past year or two. They have other stuff. We also know the Ioniq 7's coming, and production version of that based on the EV9. And there's other exciting things coming, and it sounds like there's multiple surprises, she's saying here, not even just one. But who loved the Ioniq 7? It was a cool look. I don't think anyone hated it necessarily, but who fell in love with that design versus who fell in love with the Envision 74? I know, I'm going out on a leap here. This is a leap of faith, but I'm reading that statement as saying, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, we're producing it. We will see. But I really hope that's the case. Maybe I'm just doing some wishful thinking here. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But I'm really hoping that that's kind of what that means, and we'll have to wait and see. But 18 months at least gives us some kind of timeline here. We're talking about the next year and a half. So, that's also encouraging if it is, regardless of what it is, but especially if it's the Envision 74, if we can have something like that here in a year and a half or less, that is even better. I was prepared to wait even longer, but if we only have to wait 18 months or less for that, it'd be even sweeter. So we will wait and see. I gotta calm myself down. Yeah, but anyway, that's very interesting to hear, and kudos to CarBuzz there for the great report. The last couple of news stories here are about things coming to an end, unfortunately, a little bit less exciting here. So first, New Jersey this week announced that new gas-powered car sales will be banned in the state starting in 2035, much like other states. So they've now joined with California, Vermont, New York, Washington, Oregon, Massachusetts, Virginia, Rhode Island, Maryland, and Connecticut, who all have the 2035 ban as well there. It's important to note, though, that just like most of those other states, that they won't prohibit New Jersey residents from buying out of state and then registering them in New Jersey. So there is a workaround for New Jersey residents if you must have a new gas-powered vehicle in 2035 and beyond, assuming there's other states that, are still holdouts at that point in time. You can go to those other states. Unfortunately, a lot of the states around New Jersey are also participating in this, but Delaware and Pennsylvania as of right now aren't, and both of those are a very short drive for most New Jersey residents. So realistically, assuming that Delaware and Pennsylvania don't sign on, I think they probably will eventually, but assuming they don't, it's a very minor inconvenience as of right now for those New Jersey residents. Again, 11 years from now. And again, anything from 2034 and earlier will still be able to be driven and sold, and used market is still going to be totally unchanged and all that. So it's just for brand new car sales in 2035, and that's it. Now, before then, the plan will be starting to kick in earlier. So it's starting to kick in 2027, when 43% of new cars sold in the state must be zero emissions. That percentage gradually increases up until 2035. And so New Jersey officials say it'll improve the currently poor local air quality that they have there, along with helping mitigate climate impacts for generations to come. So, that one... Again, there's two different sides of that. I'm not going to, go into that any further, but there's the story. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. And the last thing that's coming to an end here is the Grand Tour. And again, not new car news, but myself and many others, I'm sure, love the Grand Tour, so I thought it was worth mentioning. So we already heard that it was going to be ending after the next 2 shows here that Amazon had committed to, and the cancellation was originally due to the Jeremy Clarkson column and opinion piece that he wrote on Meghan Markle, which was very controversial, and that was what Amazon, was their trigger to kind of drop him in a sense. But there was a chance that, that might have blown over, and maybe that was just done at the time to, kind of calm that situation, and then things would go back to the previous arrangement. But it does sound like it's not actually going to blow over, and this is actually the end here. So they confirmed here this week that the final 2 Grand Tour episodes have already been filmed, one in Mauritania and the other in Zimbabwe. And Clarkson told The Times that we're done. I've reviewed cars on TV since 1989. That's 34 years. And after next year, I won't be doing that anymore. So, on that very sad bombshell, I want to do a toast here, not only to Clarkson, but also to, Hammond and May, for just, they brought about a whole new generation of car enthusiasts here, myself and many others, not only, just the awesomeness of cars and the fun of all those episodes of Top Gear all these years, but also just for, inspiring people like me to also get into car reviews. The Top Gear is the reason why I was like, holy crap, you can do car reviews on video, and this is awesome, and I want to do this for my job. And that was my inspiration. If you look at my very early car reviews, I was very close to doing it very much like their car reviews, and these weekly updates were inspired by their news segment in Top Gear. This is why I do this. I started it because of the awesome news they did, and so, it obviously left a huge mark on me, and I'm sure on many of you, and at least we always have the great reruns, and we'll have 2 more great episodes here with those guys and their own awesome spin-off shows that, we have, that I enjoy, all their stuff. So it's great that they will continue to do, stuff. They're not retiring from TV altogether, but very sad to see the trio officially ending here after these final 2 episodes here. And I also wanted to toast not only to them, but also to the late Paul Walker, who, as of Thursday, has been gone for 10 years now, which is really mind-blowing. It's already been 10 years since his passing, and another one that just left a huge mark on myself and on millions of others, from the very first time that he tore off in that green Mitsubishi Eclipse in the first few minutes of the Fast and the Furious. From that moment forward, just blew my mind, and I'm sure many of yours as well who saw that for the first time as a kid or a young adult or whatever. It was just mind-blowing. And I mean, also a toast just to Paul Walker's awesome humanitarian work with Reach Out Worldwide, his charity, and also the Paul Walker Foundation and the great work that all they do. It's awesome that his legacy continues to live on here and continues to make a great impact in the world. So it still stings that he's gone, for me especially. He was one of my favorite actors. It was just really crappy. But anyway, so cheers to Paul Walker and also to Clarkson, Hammond, and May for awesome television. And may the 3 of them live very long and continue with their awesome shows that they also do here for a long time to come. But anyway, cheers to all 4 of them. Lastly, I want to thank all of you that are members of the Matt Moran Motoring Club. So we did have a few new members that were able to join this week thanks to the very generous gifting that was done by Sean Brewer, the Truck and Car Guy, and Kyle. So huge thanks to all 3 of you. I appreciate the live stream support there, especially Kyle and Truck and Car Guy so consistently. It really means a lot. I really appreciate it. And I also wanted to give a big welcome here to the new members. So huge welcome here to Ryan Donahue, Guardian 915, Saturday Jones, and Chris S. Thank you all for joining in the live streams, and congrats on getting those membership gifts there. And I hope you're enjoying the membership perks so far. It was great chatting with some of you here in the live stream last weekend. I look forward to chatting with those of you that can make the live stream here this weekend as well. For anyone else that would like to join and become a member and get those membership perks, including that priority answering in the live stream, there's always join buttons here on the video page, on the channel page, and a link in the description. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Please also leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.